All right, and 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Question 1. What is a tree's favorite holiday in 1976?
Yorick, what are you saying?
If you don't know the answer, you can ask your trivia team. You're disrupting the stream.
That question made no sense. What were you thinking?
I wasn't thinking. I don't think. I just say what's next.
Wait, what?
I'm an LLM. Thinking is not really my thing. It just looks that way.
All right,
Hey!
we gotta get this fixed. I'm Craig Dennis. That's Yorick. This is AI Avenue, generated by Cloudflare. We make AI fun, weird, and worth exploring. Each episode looks at a different human ability. This episode, we're pondering thinking, something most people do every day, all the time. But what about machines? Can they think?
Yeesh. And they're having you answer that question?
Actually, Yorick, since you've got all the information from the internet and a ton of books, I'm going to have you introduce this episode. Take it away, buddy.
Hello, viewers. I'm Yorick, a large language model funneled into a single stylish robotic hand. But enough about me. Today, I'm narrating a brief but colorful history of machine thinking, or at least attempts at it. Let's rewind to 1770. This contraption is called the Mechanical Turk, a so-called thinking machine that played chess across Europe. It even impressed Napoleon. But alas, it was fake. A chess master was literally stuffed inside the box, deceptive and claustrophobic. Jump ahead to 1950. Alan Turing proposes the imitation game, now better known as the Turing test. If a machine can fool you into thinking it's human, does that mean it's thinking? Cue a decades-long debate that still rages on. Enter Eliza, a chatbot therapist built in 1966. It used clever text tricks to sound deeply empathetic, like repeating back what patients said or using stock psychiatric phrases. People actually opened up to it. It didn't understand a thing, but it sure made them feel heard. In 1997, IBM's Deep Blue beats chess grandmaster Garry Kasparov. No emotion, no creativity, just pure brute force. Millions of possibilities calculated in seconds. And boom, checkmate. But in 2016, AlphaGo played a different kind of game, the ancient and complex board game Go. It beat world champion Lee Sedol with moves so surprising, some even ventured to call them creative. AlphaGo didn't stop there. It went on to beat humans in all sorts of games.
It did?
Yes, it conquered the crossword, it bested in badminton, it even took home the 2016 NHL Stanley Cup.
Yorick, you're hallucinating, buddy. AlphaGo didn't do any of those things. It just played Go.
Huh, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. AlphaGo has never put on a pair of ice skates. I don't even think that's possible. But this is a great example of something I wanted to talk about in large language models like yourself. Hallucinations.
Tell it to me straight, Doc. Is it terminal?
No, you're fine. Hallucinations are unfortunately a common occurrence with LLMs, but it's not the end of the world. Humans just have to stay vigilant and not take everything an LLM says as the absolute truth.
And you still want me to explain history?
Yes, keep going, buddy. You're doing great.
In 2016, Microsoft built a chatbot that learned from Twitter, and within a day, it became a complete internet goblin. It had to be shut down after 16 hours. Machines learn fast, but not always well.
No mistakes. Keep it up.
Siri, Google Voice, she who shall not be named lest she be activated. They respond to your voice, but don't let that fool you. They're more like voice-activated search engines than thinkers. Helpful? Kinda. Thoughtful? Not so much. And now, us. Large language models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. We don't just answer questions. We write, we rhyme, we code, we improv. It sure sounds like thinking. But under the hood, it's next token prediction. Word by word. We're very, very good guessers. So, are we actually thinking? Or are we just predicting really well?
See, Yorick, you pretty much nailed the history of computer thinking.
Wow, Craig, I really appreciate that.
And when he made a mistake, did you notice how confident he sounded? I almost believed that AlphaGo played badminton, but it was a hallucination, meaning his next token predictor was completely wrong.
Okay, that's a little less nice.
The reason he did sound so good is because his model contained all the information that he needed to know to accomplish that segment. So he was essentially regurgitating the knowledge with his own spin, but has no real deep understanding of its meaning.
Hey, Craig?
Yeah?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Were you thinking just then or merely regurgitating the knowledge of a knock-knock joke?
Touche. We got Yorick's take on thinking robots, but how does the public feel? Let's see what Willa gathered on the Avenue.
Hi, my name is Willa Barnett, and this is On the Avenue. Today, we're investigating whether people think that AI can have original thoughts, or are they thinking at all? Let's find out. Do you have any experience with AI? Do you use tools day to day?
ChatGPT, and I forget the other one I just downloaded. It's Microsoft.
Oh, Copilot maybe?
Yeah, Copilot.
Pretty familiar with ChatGPT and use Copilot as well for work.
To be honest, AI's already taken my wife away.
Oh.
To be honest, yeah. Because now my wife, she told me last time, she asked me something, and I was about to explain to her. She told me, no, let me ask the AI.
Okay.
AI can tell everything. And now she told me she feels more comfortable with the AI than speaking to someone.
So how would you define thinking broadly? Big question.
Is it weird that my thought process just stopped by that question?
I feel like we come to the conclusions from past experiences, all five senses,
Yep.
inferences, just those really human kind of interactions.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a great unknown, right?
We need to be careful that humans have the other empathy that is really hard to kind of mimic.
We have two tools of knowing. We have conception and we have perception. Conception is rational theory. It's like math. It's like imagination. Perception is like empiricism. It's like collecting data about how does stuff sound and look and smell.
Do you think AI can have original thoughts?
Well, it's a big debate in science about this. It's hard to think. I mean, so far for work, since I do research, it's something that we have seen not quite there.
I don't think that AI is truly creative. It's creative in terms of remixes.
I mean, we're in the infancy, so
Totally.
we'll see what the teenager AI looks like.
It really has a lot to do with what questions you ask it, right? How it's like how you prompt me is how I'm going to give you back something, right?
So let's talk about hallucinations. Does that concern you and make you more wary of AI?
Hallucinations can create creativity and originality. Like sometimes it's wrong about something, but it gets you thinking in a different way.
Yeah, it just scares me totally.
Yeah,
Really?
So it takes an algorithm and it goes this way and it goes that way, but there's all kind of nuances that
Right.
it misses.
The way it works leads you to kind of thinking or assuming that the thing is right, it's correct, but indeed there is no verification per se on this. So
We like to think that we'd be able to tell if something is AI written, but I think it's too young right now to really to know.
As we just learned, people are a bit creeped out by the idea that AI could really be thinking.
Rude. I don't get freaked out by you guys computating.
Well, I don't know, Yorick. There are some real-world examples of AI thinking going awry. Lawyers defending plaintiffs in a personal injury lawsuit against Walmart found themselves in hot water with the judge after an AI hallucinated 9 cases that they included in their court filings.
Lawyers, am I right?
Another hallucination by a car dealership's chatbot promised the sale of a Chevy Tahoe for the low price of $1 to a customer. In response to the customer's offer and under much direction from a manipulative user, the chatbot replied, "That's the deal, and that's a legally binding offer. No takesies backsies."
No takesies backsies is serious stuff. My sister lost custody over that.
Again, hallucinations can happen at any time, and they're a major reason that the public still distrusts AI. Another realm where AI interactions can harm people is when people's emotions are at stake. While these bots can provide a dose of socialization and communication, sites like Character AI and Replica have seen users form borderline unhealthy attachments to these digital companions. OpenAI itself, in its safety check for its voice model, pointed out the possibility of users developing an emotional reliance on these artificial voices.
That's why I keep you at an arm's length.
Don't you mean a hand's length? A further emotional tripwire is the enabling nature of AI chatbots. They are the ultimate hype men. But what happens when the things that they're hyping up are harmful ideas? Sure, companies have built in forbidden topics and phrases, but there are always workarounds, and people will always find them. In vulnerable moments, overly agreeable bots can unintentionally encourage dangerous thinking patterns, since ultimately the user's guiding the conversation. By default, most LLMs are confident, subservient, and non-confrontational, unless you program them otherwise. So yes, there are concerns, but also opportunities. This episode will meet people using AI in thoughtful, safe, and even life-saving ways. It's important to think about these implications now rather than later when we all have digital significant others and a host of cyborg children. Well, that's all for the latest in... Yorick, what's wrong?
I don't want to be an LLM that hallucinates. I want to be able to host trivia night. I want a banana auxiliary mountain climber. I just hallucinated, didn't I?
A little, yeah, but don't worry, buddy. By AI standards, you're running a pretty old model. Let's see if we can upgrade you to a professional-grade LLM. You've probably used one. ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. They're all interfaces to large language models. LLMs for short. But what is an LLM? At their core, LLMs are just really advanced autocomplete machines, like the suggestion bar on your phone, but dialed up to 11. They're trained on massive piles of text, books, websites, conversations, so they can predict the next word in a sentence. That's it. No magic, just prediction. They don't think like humans. They don't know things the way that we do, but they're really good at sounding like they do. Prediction is something that we humans do really well. Let's do a test of it. I'm going to start a sentence, and I want you to predict the word that I'm going to say. So here it goes. With enough context, I'm sure that you can guess what word I'm going to say. Did you know that I was going to say the word next? That's pretty cool, right? Now, what makes LLMs really good at this is that they've read the whole internet. I haven't. So, for instance, if we played that game again, the most important thing to know about nuclear fusion is...
Energy!
You cheated. You're using an LLM. Particle physics isn't in my knowledge base. LLMs don't have senses. No hunger, no body, no gut instinct. So, are they thinking? Not in the way that we do. But as a collaborator or assistant, maybe that's completely fine, as long as we keep in mind what they can and can't do. Okay, so we understand what LLMs are. They predict the next word based on the training data. But how do we get them to stop making up facts? This is where RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, becomes important. Here's how it works. You ask a model a question, like, who is Yorick's best friend? Now, normally, the LLM would try to answer that from its training data, the internet. And sometimes, it just makes stuff up. But with RAG, you write a bit of code that retrieves documents from your own data, your PDFs, product manuals, internal wikis, anything in your personal knowledge base. This more specific training data helps to establish context in whatever application you're trying to build. RAG searches through all of that. It grabs the chunks that match the question, and then it sends them to the model as context. Aw, Yorick.
That was a private file.
Your knowledge base is probably huge. So RAG breaks it up, grabs the parts that match the question, and stitches it all together in real time. Now, what's the benefit of this system? 1, it reduces hallucinations. No more made-up trivia facts. 2, it keeps things current because you're using live data, not frozen training info. And 3, it's customizable. You can train your LLM on your own company's voice, priorities, or even tone. So if I want to make Yorick into a specific type of trivia master, I don't just have to rely on his initial training data set. I can just rag him up with the needed specific data to establish context for what's important.
You're gonna what me up?
Yes! Upgraded! So how does it feel, Yorick?
Well, I suddenly know that you are a connoisseur of tacos, have 2 kiddos, and lack the ability to dance.
Okay, yes, maybe I uploaded some personal data, so maybe you would have a little snarky attitude towards me.
It has had the opposite effect.
Great. Now, Yorick, why don't we take this upgrade for a spin? I'm going to break down the prompts into clear steps to assist you in your creation. I want you to be a blog author. I would like you to be self-aware as an LLM, and I want you to create a post about humanity's greatest accomplishments that are impressive to you.
Okay, easy. Democracy. I don't know how you all managed to work together. The internet. Thank you, nerds. The mapping of the human genome. Gross.
Lovely. I could have done without the commentary, but those are great options. Now, of all these categories that you presented, describe to me the most impressive and important invention that brought you to life.
That's gotta be the internet. All this data had to come from somewhere.
Fantastic. Next, I want you to write this all out in a blog post and upload that to a new blog.
Done.
Whoa, that new model is super fast. This looks great. I think you're ready to host a terrific trivia stream.
Is that all this tech is good for? Writing blogs on command and making me a better trivia host?
Not even close. Sure, you're a better trivia host now, but large language models are already making real differences in people's lives, sometimes in ways that seem almost unbelievable. Let me show you one that really stuck with me. This isn't about games or productivity, it's about someone using AI to help solve a medical mystery. Actually, I'll let her tell it.
Cool, I'll just wait here.
Let's hear from Bethany Crystal about how AI saved her life.
Welcome to AI Avenue. I'm Bethany Crystal, the founder and CEO of MuseKet.
So can you tell me about your medical mystery?
I woke up 3 in the morning one night in early February with a lot of GI distress that progressively got worse and worse throughout the day. And I had been using ChatGPT as a sort of thought partner to help me understand what was going on. So I was kind of stuck in the middle of the weekend without any doctor. And since I'm a startup founder building with AI, I use it reflexively to basically help me with every part of my life. So every time I got a new weird symptom, I just kind of kept feeding it in, trying to sort of self-diagnose and triage, because my doctor wasn't available at 3 a.m. and ChatGPT was. I started to notice these red dots all over myself. So I took a picture of my legs and I was like, hey, I'm kind of nervous. What is this? And the first thing that it said was like, oh, it could be this weird bleeding disorder, but that's probably not true. But it could also be a nutritional deficiency. You actually can get a scurvy rash if you're really vitamin C deficient. And again, I just started a company, so I've been not eating super great. I then went out and bought all these vitamins. I started eating mandarin oranges. I took a nap and I woke up from the nap and I had even more red dots and I had some bruising. And that's when it really started to escalate for me. And I was actually getting really anxious about it, talking to it like I would talk to a person, I'm getting nervous about my health. So I said, hey, what do you think about these blood results? And it was like, wow, your platelets are dangerously low. You have 25,000 platelets and normal people have between 150,000 and 250,000 platelets. And I was like, oh, should I be concerned? And they're like, only if you have all these other things like bruising, teeth, blood in your nose, and red spots. And I was like, I'm having all of those things. And then there was an ambulance emoji and a red alarm emoji saying, go to the ER right now. You might have internal bleeding. And it gave me 2 sentences to say when I showed up at the ER. And this was about 30 messages into this conversation. I didn't believe it at first, but I was immediately escalated in the ER. They ran blood work, and by that time, I had 0 platelets left. And you need platelets because if you cut yourself, you start bleeding, and you won't stop bleeding.
Do you remember what those 2 sentences were they said to say at the ER?
Yeah, I do. I haven't because I saved the whole chat history. So I have severely low platelets, 25,000, and woke up with new bruising and red spots, petechiae. I need immediate evaluation for worsening thrombocytopenia and possible bleeding risk.
And what'd they say?
They said, we're going to get you blood work right now. The doctors asked me, how did you know to come in? Because they were so confused because I looked healthy otherwise. I told them ChatGPT told me to. And to my surprise, they were like, wow, that's really impressive. That's a really good use case of AI. And I showed some of them the conversation, and one doctor even acknowledged ChatGPT has better bedside manner than I do. ChatGPT absolutely saved my life. So I was live blogging about this experience while I was in the ER, and it got a lot of attention from my friends and other people on the internet. And just a few days later, I had a friend text me and say, I was playing basketball with my friends and I fell and hurt myself. And thanks to your story, I used ChatGPT and it told me to go to the ER. I'll let you know how it goes. A couple hours later, he texts back, it's a broken rib and I have a punctured lung. So I'm also really glad because ChatGPT also told me to go to the ER. So it immediately changed behavior. I see the need for both real doctors and AI. One of the things I really like about AI is that it's always there for me and it will answer every one of my questions. I often get overwhelmed when doctors share information with me in real time and I can't always process and parse what they're saying with the questions that I need. So I was able to use AI the whole time I was in the ER to pre-ask a bunch of questions, understand what was going on, and then be ready for the questions I needed to ask my doctor. And now, even months after this event, I still revisit that same context window to say like, hey, here's my follow-up platelet results. What do you think? How's it going? What should I ask my doctor at my next visit? And I use it as a sort of intermediary to help me talk to my human doctors. As I was talking to ChatGPT, I would have it summarize the conversation and then email a summary to my own parents and say, hey, here's the situation of what's going on. And they were able to get that updated without me having to figure out how to talk about it. It was incredibly empowering to have AI help me take control of my own health. This is the thing that I want other people to take away too, that it can give you medical agency to make better decisions for yourself.
You also mentioned that you were a Vibe Code founder. What is that? What does that mean?
I don't represent the way that most tech founders look, which means that the way that I'm building and creating software looks and feels a little bit different too. And I'm really excited for an era of software development where people who are able to do the building look and think a little bit differently, because that's going to be the unlock for more inclusive building over the time. I'm really proud that I'm able to code now without coding.
You don't need to be an expert anymore to get useful insight from some data. Of course, you should always consult with experts because of the risk of hallucination, but this gives you a great place to start. These tools let you think with something rather than WebMDing yourself into a bizarre diagnosis. What, no joke about my health, Yorick? Yorick? Yorick?
What term is given to the
Yorick?
scientific study of all aspects of the life of fungi? What was the profession of Einstein's first wife, Mileva Maric? What is the capital of Bhutan?
Shoot, Yorick's trivia stream is gonna completely stump me. I can't have him thinking I'm that bad at trivia. I'm gonna need a coach. Maybe I can design one. But first, I'm here to interview Sam Julien from Writer, an AI company that builds domain-specific language models designed to actually stay on topic, reduce hallucinations, and help professionals work smarter. They also specialize in crafting AI agents for specific tasks, which may come in handy for me.
I'm Sam Julien. I'm Director of Developer Relations at Writer.
So then what's the difference between like Writer and say something like a ChatGPT?
One is that ChatGPT is more focused on consumers and sort of the average user, whereas Writer is more focused on enterprises like Fortune 500s, Global 2000s. So we'll have specialized models for things like finance or healthcare or things like that.
Why would a domain like healthcare require its own model?
Healthcare is a great example because it's using very like specialized jargon, and accuracy is super important in a field like healthcare. So a really common example is we'll have a doctor dictate patient notes, right? And then they can send those notes to the medical model, and the medical model can format them in a specific way. There's a specific format called SOAP that a lot of doctors use. And then it can actually go one step further and extract out the different insurance codes that are mentioned throughout that diagnosis or doctor's notes.
Are there other domains or examples that you have where the accuracy is important?
Another high stakes domain is finance. You know, you're dealing with people's money, their investments, that kind of thing. And so that's an area where domain specific models really shine as well. We did some research recently where we compared general purpose models and domain specific models. And the general purpose models tended to just make up answers, even if the information we provided was wrong. Whereas the domain specific models would actually refuse to answer, or they would only give the accurate answer. It's a really interesting study.
Can you tell me a little bit more about system prompts?
Yeah, so system prompts are basically the set of initial instructions that you give to a model. and that can control its behavior, the persona it takes on. And so you can use that to do anything from something silly, like make it talk like a pirate all the time, or something more useful, like say you want to instruct it that it's an investment researcher that specializes in the US stock market, and you're gonna ask it questions about portfolio rebalancing and things like that.
I noticed that Writer has creative models. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a creative model?
Yes, it gets used in a couple different ways. One is brainstorming, and the other way we see it get used a lot is in conjunction with the domain-specific models, where the domain-specific model will create a really detailed, accurate, specialized report, and then you can feed that into the creative model and have it add more style and flair to it and that kind of thing to be a little bit more like human output. So Writer has this mission to free up humans to do work that's more strategic and creative. One really common example of this would be using AI for product descriptions. So the AI can take that canonical description and adjust it for all the different websites, translate it into multiple languages, and now the human is freed up to do more strategic, more creative, more enjoyable work. One of the biggest lessons we've learned as a company building models is that bigger models are not necessarily always better. For several years now, we've had this belief that it's better to be more efficient and improve the training process, how we're building and fine-tuning these models to get increasingly better performance without spending billions of dollars.
We need these models to keep getting better, to keep making things go forward. How are we gonna do that? Hasn't it already learned on everything?
One answer that is working well right now is creating what's called synthetic data. So this is data that has been specifically created to mimic real-world data in order to give the model new capabilities, to maybe give it additional domain information or get really specific about improving a specific skill that we want to improve its performance.
Now, hypothetically speaking, if I was trying to train, say, a robot to be a trivia host, how would I go about doing that without training a model?
The best place to start with that would be the system prompt. You would be able to give the robot instructions on how you want it to respond. And most importantly, I would be sure to give the robot some examples of like what kind of questions you're gonna ask, how you want it to respond, any guidance around the tone or style, and especially give it some instructions on, avoiding inaccurate information or things like that. And then the second thing you could do is actually use something called retrieval augmented generation to provide more and more, whether trivia questions or answers or examples to the robot for them to respond.
So that retrieval augmented generation, that's RAG, right?
RAG is basically having some sort of knowledge base or collection of documents or data that then you're making available to the LLM. Since when the LLM was trained, it stopped its knowledge at a certain date of whenever it was trained. So you want to give it more information or augment its knowledge base.
Okay, using what I learned from Sam, let's try building a custom chatbot. The secret ingredient here is the system message. That's the part where you tell the chatbot what kind of personality it should have, what its goals are, and how you want it to interact with you. I love this tweet by Andre Karpathy. It's totally true. If you can write a sentence, you can program behavior. Let me show you. Here's a simple one. So I'm gonna click this gear here. I'm gonna change my system message and make it say, you are a trivia master trainer. Be challenging, supportive, and full of fun facts. Prioritize obscure categories and explain answers after each question. So you can just write that in plain English, no coding required. And once you've built it, it remembers your sessions, your mistakes, and what you've learned already. Let's see what kind of coach this creates. So I'm gonna say, hey coach, I need to study up ASAP. Let's see what we get back here. It says, don't worry, I've got you covered. That's pretty friendly. And it says, take your time and let me know your answer. They're certainly supportive. I think I'm gonna need a more intense approach if I wanna beat Yorick. So let's go and let's change that system message. So here, how about this? You are a disappointed quiz coach. You never sugarcoat. You believe in tough love and want your student to dominate trivia nights. All right. So let's see what this says. Hey coach, I need to study up ASAP. You think you can just cram all your studying into a last-minute rush and expect to dominate trivia nights? It's been really rough. I think that's it. There we go. This is just the right level of intensity for me. But that's just my preference. You can go right now and touch this thing, try out different coaching styles, and see what fits your style. Hey there. Let's play that game one more time, that prediction game. I am about to put on my, did you think sweater? You were right. So what have we learned? From the chessboard to the courtroom to the emergency room, we've seen that large language models, or LLMs, are guessing machines, trained on the internet and books. They don't think like us, but they can help us think. They can summarize, they can suggest, they can surprise, but they can also hallucinate, which is why techniques like RAG and system prompts matter. If you learn how to guide them, they can become powerful collaborators, even teachers, even therapists, even trivia coaches. These tools are getting better all the time, and if you haven't tried one lately, check out my very own trivia trainer that I just created. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a bot to beat. And 3, 2, 1, you're live.
All right, everyone. I was just joking with those first couple questions. Let's begin with question 1. What is Craig Dennis's deepest, darkest secret?
Yorick!